Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. Now today's video comes from Alwyn Joseph, who asked if we can talk a little bit about score reading. And we certainly can. Now what I'm not going to talk about today is looking at all the elements in a score and saying this is a crotchet, this is a quaver, this is a time signature, all that sort of stuff. You can find that information very freely available online. What I do want to share with you though is how I guide a student to practice going from looking at a score that they don't understand at all to being able to play a finished result. Now for those who don't know, as well as doing lots of online teaching via Zoom and Skype and all that stuff, my day job is working in schools. When I first started that, which was over a decade ago now, one of the things I thought was going to be the biggest challenge was trying to make everything idiot-proof. I thought I'd be like Denzel Washington in that basketball movie and I can make all the kids work really hard and get really good. And I now realise 10 years later that not only do I not really believe in the concept of bright kids and dim kids or anything like that, my biggest enemy when working in schools is disinterest. Most of the kids are not really very interested and they're there because their parents want them to be there. Trying to get kids interested is of course part of the job, but there's only so much you can do as a teacher. And so I realised that I don't need to make things idiot-proof, I need to make them disinterest-proof. And so nowadays I feel if I can get a child from year 7 all the way through to year 10 or 11 to get to the point where they can't read music at all, to the point where they can read it effortlessly, then that's an achievement that we can both benefit from. Now, the side effect I realise is that the kids who are interested, with a real clear method, rather than just being left to their own devices, they really accelerate their progress. And we can have kids going from never reading music before in their life to reading fluently in a matter of months, really, very often. So if you're watching this video, I assume you are one of the interested students, and I want to share with you the steps I give all of my students to go one by one, rather than just giving them a score and saying, read it. These are the steps we have to go through for every single piece, no matter how easy or hard it is, to make sure that we can play it perfectly. Now, the final thing to say, just before we dive into these steps, is all of this is based on the assumption that you are doing loads of listening. Again, not all students are, but the most interested students are listening and score reading along to the recording. And that is hugely, hugely important. But let's assume you are doing that. And here's the steps we need to take. So first of all, we need to do some research and some recon before we can actually dive into doing any playing. So the very first thing we need to check is our signatures. So we've got our time signature and our key signature. So to understand key signatures, we use our saying, Father Charles goes down and ends battle, or battle ends and down goes Charles's father. So for sharps, Father Charles goes down and ends battle, and for flats, battle ends and down goes Charles's father. For score reading, it's not too important to know what key you're in. It's really just how many sharps do you need and what are they. So 2 sharps would be Father Charles, F sharp and C sharp. And what we're doing is we're putting alarm bells in place in our head so that when we come to working out notes and we go, oh, that note's an F, our alarm bell goes off and goes ding, ding, ding. No, it's not, it's an F sharp. Or, oh, that's a B. Ding, ding, ding. No, it's not, it's a B flat. And we need to remember those for the rest of the line, and we'll be reminded at the start of every single line in most pieces of music. The next thing is the time signature. This is really important to know how many beats in a bar, because that's going to help us with our music maths. It gives us the answer to the equation, just like if I said 3 plus something equals 4. You would know that what was missing from that equation was 1, because you have the answer in place. And so knowing what the value of each bar is supposed to be can really help us down the line with our counting and our music maths. The third thing we need to check is the geography of the piece of music. So I describe the geography as the journey your eyes take from the beginning of the piece to the end of the piece. In music, it's not like a novel where we start at the beginning and we end at the end. It's more like one of those choose your own adventure books, where it sometimes says, turn to page 2 if you want to go through the door, turn to page 76 if you want to turn back. And it sends us all the way around the book. Music can be like that with repeats, codas, all sorts of other things, sometimes just text written, play first time only, play second time only, all this extra stuff. And so geography is your opportunity to look through the piece from beginning to end and work out the path you're actually going to be taking. And then the fourth and final bit of research we need to do before we're ready to actually practice our score is your opportunity to look through the piece and identify anything that you don't know. So you're looking through the piece of music and you're saying, I've no idea what that means, I've no idea what that means, I've no idea what that means, I've never seen that before, or I have seen that before but I've forgotten what it means. At that point, you would do either a quick Google and figure those things out, or of course in a lesson I will tell the student. However, none of this stuff, including key signatures and time signatures, you want to write down as little as possible because you want to give yourself the opportunity to forget so that tomorrow you come back and you go, oh, I just Googled what that was yesterday and I've forgotten. You've gifted yourself the opportunity to relearn that. And in giving yourself those relearning opportunities, things are more likely to stick. So write as little in your score as possible in terms of those first 4 steps. So now we've got a good lay of the land. We're ready to do our 5 steps required to actually go from looking at the piece for the first time to being able to play the piece on your instrument. Now, each of these 5 steps is like a pyramid. We're laying down one layer before we can move on to the next. It doesn't matter how long that layer takes you. It might take you 5 minutes, it might take you 5 months, but there's not any point in moving on to the next step until you've mastered the previous layer, because we've got all this coordination we need to have going on in our head when we're playing music. It's really important that one of those things you're trying to coordinate is rock solid by itself, and when you incorporate a new element, that's the only real variable, that's the only thing that's a little bit confused, a little bit hazy. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the bit of the piece that we think is the hardest. Most of the time people are miles off when they think something's the hardest. Very often there just isn't really anything very hard in a piece of music. They look at it and they go, that looks like it's got more notes. And by the time they've gone through the 5 steps, they go, oh, that's really not that bad at all. So hopefully that happens with you as well. And if you are on a piano or some other instrument where it requires that hands are separate, you would start by going through the 5 steps, right hand only, then left hand only, then try and put them together. But on the guitar, of course, we don't have that. So step 1 would be naming the notes. You're going to look at your hardest section. It might be somewhere probably 1 to 4 bars, just a small area like that. And you're going to speak out loud the names of the notes. What I realised was a lot of the time when I would leave kids to their own devices, they'd occasionally just kind of get jammed on a bit. And they'd keep trying it and getting it wrong. And I would say, can you tell me what the note is? And very often they wouldn't actually respond. They'd just keep trying to play. And it's like they're stuck on this internal loop. And when I say, well, pause a second, can you tell me the note? And they actually verbalise it, they suddenly get it right. So it's like there was this mental jam going on in their head. So let's just start with that. Can we actually say the notes? And if it's a chord, you would say C and G and B, whatever the notes were, speaking really confidently through the phrase. And we want to be able to read it effortlessly, not it's a C, no, we need to get to the stage, we need to practice it until we can go C, G, B, E, A, D, G and B, so on and so forth, and we can just really clearly rattle them off. Because if we can't even say them, we're going to struggle to play them. So now that we've said all of our notes and we're really confident with that, we can move on to the next stage. This is easier or harder depending on your instrument. So on the guitar, it is particularly difficult this stage, unfortunately, and on the piano, it's particularly easy. This is finding where those notes live on your instrument. The reason it's so challenging on the guitar is because we have various options. But the thing we're really trying to focus on here is making sure we're at least getting the octave right. So if it's the guitar's equivalent of middle C, really we're in tenor clef on the guitar, but we call this note here middle C. So we need to know that we're at least getting that sound. It's not just any C on the guitar, we can't just be up here. We need to be on the exact C, and then if the next note is an F, well, does it go up to an F or does it go down to an F? And find that note on the instrument. This is going to require some experimentation to find the best place to find it, but the more you go through these steps, and because every single piece of music you learn, you're practicing these steps even more, you're just getting more and more experience. And so more experienced players can just very easily see where these ideas are going to fit nicely on the neck. So step 3, we are now saying our notes nicely. We're able to find them on our instrument. We might be a couple of days into learning these bars at this point, or we might be only a few minutes in, depending on your experience level. But the next thing is, well, which fingers are we going to use? Again, this varies depending on your instrument. On the piano, it might be really obvious. On the guitar, it might be less so, but we're committing to a fingering pattern at this stage. Now, the reason for this is it's really hard to get someone to commit to a fingering pattern, especially if they've already learned something and they've learned it in a pretty inefficient way, it's really hard to get them to fix it because it's kind of just ingrained in their body. It's like trying to unlearn a bad habit. So we make sure at this stage, no, we're just going to play, we're not worrying about time or anything yet, we're just playing the right notes with the right fingers. It might take us 2 minutes to find each note, that's absolutely fine. And we figure out, now we know exactly where the notes live on our instrument, what's the best finger pattern to use. And at this stage you might decide, in fact I'm going to use, rather than this C, I'm going to use this C because that's going to fit general finger pattern better. And so 2 and 3 you might be kind of interchanging, swapping through every now and then between. So step 4, this is where random notes on the neck suddenly start to become music. Step 4 is we're going to work out the count of our challenging section. Now the way to do this we've discussed in a separate video which you can see up here, but to really summarize it, we're looking where each beat in the bar lies, and we're going to count each beat using, generally speaking, the smallest subdivision used within that beat. So each of those bars, we're going to practice saying it again until we can say it effortlessly. So it might be 1, 2 E and a 3 per 4 and 1 E and a 2 and 3, 4. Something like that, but you're going to practice saying it over and over and over again, just by itself. If you can't say it, we're not ready to play it yet. And step 5, our final step, is we're going to say it and play it. So we're going to say our count whilst we play the notes that we found on the instrument with the right fingers. We're going to try and bring everything together now. Now, this is going to be the hardest step, of course, because we've got so much to think about. But any weaknesses that you find, you simply go back to that step and work your way back through. So if you keep mucking up the fingers, go back to step 3, work on the fingers, relearn the count, and then try step 5 again. But we're trying to do it all together. So it might be something like 1, 2 E and a 3 and 4 and 1 per 2 and 3 and 4. Whatever the phrase is, I'm saying the count as I play it on the instrument. I'm really trying to get those locked in. So at this point we can play the section with perfect notes, perfect fingers, perfect rhythm. The only thing missing is now the performance aspect of the piece. Now for a lot of people, they're happy at this point. They just really want to get to the point where they play the notes and they can't really tell if they're phrasing it nicely or whatever. And this is where what I said at the very beginning comes back in, listening. Although score is an amazing invention, it is pen and paper trying to turn sound into shapes. And it doesn't really work. It misses the mark. Although you can write dynamics, phrase marks, all this stuff in a score, the most efficient way to learn that stuff is by ear. So this is why you need to make sure you've been studying the score to a really fantastic, professional, world-class performance of that piece of music. And although you can get all that information, dynamics, etc. from the page, it's lacking compared to the notation and the rhythmic work. They're very accurate in terms of what they convey most of the time. Dynamics, phrasing are a bit more vague, so you need to go to a source of some sort, whether that's the original composer, where possible, playing the piece, or a highly regarded performance. And you listen to that piece almost obsessively until those things come out in your own performance. And that's really the way that I believe phrasing and dynamics and all that performance stuff should be learned. The page is sorely lacking in that regard, unfortunately. So Alwyn, I hope you're now reading score a lot more confidently, and remember to always do your research beforehand. Don't write any of that stuff down, and then go through the 5 steps. Naming the notes, finding the notes, using the right fingers for the notes, saying the count out loud, and then saying it and playing it. And if you go through those steps every single time, not only are you becoming a better musician generally, but you're getting better at using those steps, and the process is going to be quicker and quicker and quicker. What I used to do with score reading is just open the page and start, maybe start at the beginning and end at the end. It wasn't very efficient. So you now have a very clear guide. Do this, then do that, then do that, then do that. It's a very efficient approach. And like I said, this even kind of works after a number of years with disinterested students, but it works basically within a matter of days with interested students, and they go from not being able to read score at all to being very confident players. If you found that one useful, please do give it a like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share with any of your friends who can't read score to save their life. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, but drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out, and I heard you find it difficult. difficult to cope well. Here